All right. Well, welcome everybody to our February community call. I'm excited tonight because we are first going to hear from Taylor Smith, who is an Emerald Ambassador. And I think it was at my first leaders retreat when we met the first time in Dallas. Is that right? Which has been years ago now. But you guys, I love Taylor. She's like one of the sweetest, kindest, most genuine people that you'll meet. And I feel like she flies under the radar and kind of behind the scenes. But I have always loved my interactions with her and her husband, Jacob, who she's been married to for 6 years. But I'm excited for our team to get to hear from her tonight and just hear a little bit about her story. She joined in April of 2015. So I'm trying to think how many months that was before me, but before I joined, and she joined after winning a 3-day trial pack and watching her sponsor for months. So I love that. I just always love reminding people that they don't see your first post and jump in. Like, people watch for a while. And she lives in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and has been married 6 years to Jacob, and they have a really cute mini schnauzer named Holmes, and I love his name. It's so great. She works full-time as at the mentorship and volunteer program as a manager for the Tulsa Regional STEM Alliance. And she loves lots of things, but her favorites are Jesus, budgets, and Chick-fil-A and helping others. I love that Chick-fil-A got thrown in there because I also love a good Chick-fil-A sandwich. So I am going to turn it over to Taylor and let her share just a little bit about her story, how she started, and what keeps her sticking around after this many years. So I will let you take it away.
Sounds good. Thank you. That was such a kind intro. Thank you so much, Jody. And Jacob and I love you guys too. And, just so grateful for you and this team, and excited for all the success that you've had. And you guys, you have an amazing leader in Jody. And all of you are amazing leaders. I get to see some of you, of course, on social, and just very grateful for you all. So, but yeah, she said it all. That's me in a nutshell. And it's true. My sponsor is Suzanne Shirley, which a lot of you may know. So if you kind of put the pieces together, that I am Cassie Rainey's sponsor. Kyle was my youth pastor here in Broken Arrow for a few years, and I would babysit for them and would just spend hours on their couch. And she took my senior photos. I just love and adore them. So super grateful for, of course, the impact they've had and on our life. So when I started Plexus, I'll share a little bit about my health story. I just wanted to maybe lose a little bit of weight and sleep better at night. That's kind of the only two things that I knew about Plexus. I knew that Suzanne, who was my high school Spanish teacher, she was losing weight. She had crazy good energy during the day, and I was intrigued. I wasn't quite ready to jump in. But when I was in college, this would be several years before I joined Plexus, I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, which is an autoimmune disorder that causes hyperthyroidism. And so I unfortunately did not find Plexus until after I went through treatment and had gone on medication and went through all of that. But Plexus certainly helped me manage a lot of my symptoms. And a lot of those things, a lot of those issues I'm no longer dealing with. And, a lot of times whenever I talk to people about Plexus, I bring up the health benefits first because it truly has changed our lives. And Jacob loves the products too. He was super skeptical whenever I started, and I was too. I joined and I was like, what did I just do? I was like drinking this pink drink, and if you guys even tried the original, like the original. I did not like it. I did not like the taste of it. So it was hard for me to even drink it every day. But I was telling my coworkers, like, yeah, I don't know. It's like a pink drink. I don't really know what this is, but I'm trying it. So, but honestly, I was not planning on telling a soul about it. I didn't want anyone to know that I had started this and even had joined this type of company. You know, I'm sure you've heard that all before and maybe have had those same thoughts. And so I was not planning on sharing it, but things change. You start feeling really good. And so started sharing with a few people, and Cassie joined me. I think she was like my third or fourth ambassador. I was gonna send her a sample, and she was like, "Nope, I think I'm just gonna sign up." And I was like, "Okay." And I remember like very early on, she was like, "Do you think I should sign Kyle Lab?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So can you imagine like two diamonds now? And she was like, "Do you think I should?" I'm like, "Yeah, you should." So anyway, just so grateful for them, and of course, blown away by all that they have accomplished. So know that I am cheering them on all the way. So anyway, you know, from that, you know, my health story started building, was seeing more and more changes. My financial picture, of course, was changing. And when I graduated college, I graduated with $40,000 in student loan debt. Right after we got married, we found Dave Ramsey and got on a good budget. And then shortly after that, found Plexus. And so with prayer, with tithing, with a good budget, and of course, adding in Plexus later on, we were able to eliminate that within 22 months. And so my husband and I don't have children. And so you know, we enjoy traveling and, you know, spending time together. We serve at our church. We love to give and give abundantly. And of course, Plexus has allowed us to do that. So just one simple yes to something I was super skeptical about has led us. And now almost 6 years later, I just want to keep sharing about it. So I went Emerald last July, literally at like 10:50 p.m., which was like so crazy. There were times where I didn't think I would do it, but you know, a lot of prayer, a lot of prayer. So I'm so grateful, and you know, this journey has been, you know, it has its ups and downs. Certainly, we work with people. We're in this type of industry where there are ups and downs, but I wanted to share just maybe a few things that I have learned and that really, really keep me going. Um, and so the first one, I told Jody this the other day, is the one thing that I'm most proud of in my Plexus journey is that I never, ever gave up. I have never stopped working my business. I have never stopped sharing. Here comes my friend Morgan. She is a brand new senior gold on my team, so she's hopping on right now. So she's connecting to audio. Okay. So anyway, never, ever, ever give up. I have always been consistent in posting, like I said, sharing about it. And so whatever you are searching for, whatever you are working for, just keep at it. Because truly, like, if you keep at this, if you keep at work in your business, like, you're going to succeed. You are going to have peaks and valleys, but ultimately you will get to where you want to be with hard work, determination, grit, and prayer. I remember I think it was my very first convention. We were in Vegas, and we were challenged to find, like, get little tidbits from people that you meet along the way. And so there was a couple that we were on the elevator with heading back up to our hotel room, and she was a diamond and her husband was a sapphire. And I wish I could remember their names. I don't know their names. But we were just like, yep. So like, what's your business tip? What's your little tidbit? And they said, just keep going. They said, you know, if you keep reaching out, keep searching, you're going to find those business builders. You're going to find that gold that you keep searching for. And that has always stuck with me. And so whether or not you have, you know, some runners or a business builder, I would say keep going, keep searching, because they will be there. and keep dreaming, right? So long, I saw many of my friends succeed. And there came a point where I thought, why not me? Like, why, why not me? Why can I not have the same success that they do? Well, I do. Like, I can have the same success. I talked about that, we don't have children, and that is by choice for now. But a lot of whys are driven by children, right? So you want your kids to go to a private school, or you want to pay for their college with cash, but I didn't really have that. Um, maybe like one day for our future children, sure. But right now, or staying home with your babies, things like that. My why was not children driven. But last year, when the pandemic hit, it gave me a new desperation that I had never seen before in my business. And so honestly, that made me dig a little deeper than I ever had before. Jacob, he is a mechanic for Lexus, and the hours just weren't coming in like they were. And so it really gave me a new drive that I never had before, because I knew financial freedom was close. Like, I knew that we were close to that point. And so being able to work at home, have a little bit more time to dedicate. But like I said, I never ever stopped working, being consistent. It was just something flipped in me. And so you have those moments along the way where you may have all the belief in the world, but something may just change in you. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I talked a little bit about belief. I would say that has absolutely sustained me. I've always had belief in the products and this opportunity. At times the belief in myself was lower, but you have to build that up. But you keep that. And of course I have the ultimate belief in our company and our executives. I think what we have seen from them in the last year is beyond anything that we had before. Just their integrity and leadership has been just absolutely incredible. And I have so many moments now where I'm like, I can't imagine ever being in another company. Like, I'm truly Plexus for life because of what they stand for, who they are, and of course how our products have changed our lives, right? But there were times where I know I hit my leadership lid and I had to dig a little bit deeper as far as personal growth, personal development, even professional development. I still work in 9 to 5, and there are areas that I grew in that also kind of corresponded with my Plexus business. And so, whether that is podcasts or books, digging deeper, seeing what is working, what isn't, seeing ways that you can improve, I think has really been beneficial, not only for me personally, but in my business. So I'm so grateful for, those little tidbits that I have learned along the way. Another thing is be bold, be passionate, never stop sharing, never, ever give up. Pray boldly, pray those big prayers. I prayed a long time for a community of people that I could train, that I could teach. And with, Morgan, she came alongside, and we have built an amazing team. We kind of have some fresh, like, young faces, which I love. I'm so excited to have girls on my team that are our age, and we can build this team culture in this community. And because I never gave up, because I kept praying those bold prayers, I believe that God brought the harvest. And, I cannot express my gratitude enough for that, because it truly has changed everything. Just having a team that you can rely on, that you can train, and that you can teach, that the benefits of that, sometimes outweigh anything else, even the income. And so God will bring the harvest. You just have to keep planting, keep going, never, ever give up. Another thing that I think was really beneficial for us is events. And I know it's weird to talk about in-person events right now when, we're not really having those, but when it's safe, get to events, plug into the events that corporate has for us now, because they truly are beneficial. So whether that's a training, whether that's leaders retreat, we've got convention coming up, whatever you're comfortable with, if that's in person or virtual. I don't know what that'll look like for this summer, but plug into those events because they are huge belief builders. And I would say get your new people to them. For the first time ever, outside of Cassie, I had people joining me for Super Saturday. Morgan was the only person on my outside leg that went with me to Super Saturday last year. And this year we had like, I think 5 or 6 sign up. And so just seeing that growth in a year has just, oh my gosh, it just makes my heart so happy. Just being able to be a leader for my team, something I have looked forward to for such a long time. And so those are the main points, the things that have kept me going. If you have questions about my story, I would love to connect with you. Of course, I'm on Facebook and all of that. I don't think I'm friends with all of you, but would love to connect with you. If there's anything that I can do for you or your team, would absolutely love to help out however I can. So, and thank you so much, Jody, for having me on. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for being willing. And you guys, she really means it. Like I'll message her and I'm like, can we talk? she's always willing. So I appreciate that about her and really the one Plexus culture, like that is the culture. But some people live it out better than others. And I've always experienced that from Taylor. So I appreciate that. I'm going to change the view because I don't like that I can't see everyone's faces. Okay, that's better. But I wanted to see yours while you were speaking. Yeah, like not giving up is it. That is huge. And I love that you've never given up. That's how I feel, even in those valleys, right? Like there are days when I'm like, throwing in the towel, but I know that it's just for today and I'll come back tomorrow, right? Like the learning to rest, not quit mentality is huge. And I love that you said to keep dreaming, like bringing that in. And I mean, Plexus really is the thing that unlocked even the ability to dream for me. I just had not been able to do that and didn't feel allowed to do that. And so I love that Plexus does that for us and really challenges us to do that. And that we have to dig deep for our why sometimes. And it changes over time, right? Like my why when I started changed drastically 2 years in. And then, feels like every couple years I have to reevaluate, okay, what is my why? What am I doing? And so I love that you touched on all of those things. It's so important. But if anyone has a question that you want to ask now, I'll let you do that. Is she going to bed, Kelly? No. Saying hi. Okay, well, if you think of something, you can send it to Taylor, but thank you so much for sharing with us. I so appreciate that. Okay, so we are going to talk about time management. I feel like this is one of those things too, with like your why or a dream or your lid. Like you have to dig deep every now and again to reevaluate your time management skills. And every season looks different. And especially if you have kids at home right now, we've had to reevaluate and redo how we do time. But I wanted to start out with reading Kyle's post that I reposted today because it was about time. And it's so valid. And time marches on no matter what, you guys. Like we get this, everyone gets 24 hours, right? But so often it's how we think about time that determines how we spend it. And so I loved what he shared. So I'm going to read this and then Terry is going to lead us in a few questions before we get into some tips. But here is Kyle's post. Time is the one commodity we cannot increase. Our income, education, influence, and community we can gain more of, but not time. Though we often say we don't have enough time, maybe time isn't the issue. Since we all have the same 24 hours, then is time really the enemy, or maybe it's something else? I don't think we have a time problem, but we may have a direction problem. Sometimes we just don't know where we're heading. We can be busy, but that doesn't mean we're productive. Time may be the most valuable commodity, so we need to spend it wisely. You may think your frustration is born out of your lack of time, but the source could be the lack of direction. So where do you want to go? No rush deciding, take your time, then put it to use. And then he has Colossians 4:5, walk in wisdom towards others, making the best use of the time. And I love that because it's very, very true. So we are going to start out with some of our thoughts and even what do we allow to get in the way of our time management and getting things done. One other thing I want to say too is that I don't want my day just to be full. Like that's not my value anymore. I actually feel like I've hit some form of success when I'm like, sweet, I have 2 hours of free time today because I've like managed my time so well. And now I have time flexibility thanks to Plexus, you know, in this job that I have been so blessed with. And so I definitely think about time differently now than I did before Plexus and using it to honor God. But I really value like the margins and the space to be free, to be flexible. So Terry, I'll let you take it away for this portion.
Okay, so I was thinking about what we as a society, especially America, thinks about time. And really it is multitasking, which I hate that word because I feel like when I multitask, I don't do any of those 7 things I'm doing all at the same time well at all. And that is the truth. But we are programmed to get as much done as we can in the day, cram as many things as we can. We have crock pots and Instapots and all those things that do things like that because we don't have an hour to make dinner. And we think that is time management. And so I'm curious, when I say time management, what comes to your mind? And you can unmute yourself. You can put it in the chat. I'll try to pay attention to the chat. I'm not really super tech savvy here. But schedules, planners, yes. Planners, I forgot about that. Those are supposed to keep us very on task. Yes, planning your time and being efficient. That's what we all want. Scheduling, yes. I mean, I'm like Taylor, I don't have any little kids at home, but when Kate was little, it was like our whole day revolved around her and what she was doing and where she needed to be and how she needed to get there. And now you guys don't have to get there. You just have to have this schedule of Zoom calls, when they're supposed to be on and when they're not, and when they're supposed to be working and when they're not. Okay, so how do you want to feel at the end of the day? I know I always want to feel certainly that I got all the things done because I have a big list and I like to check them all off. But I like to feel like I made a difference and that I did something purposeful today, whatever that may be. And I don't want to go to bed thinking, oh my God, I moved 10 things from my to-do list to tomorrow's to-do list. That just makes me tired and stressed out. So how do you want to feel at the end of the day? I think I saw accomplished. That's a good one. Peaceful. Oh, I love that, Stephanie. Me too. Peaceful. Good, tired, peaceful, intentional. Yes, a good tired. Absolutely. I mean, I know we're all sleeping better because we take our Mega X and our ProBio 5, but there's a good tired and there's a exhausted tired. Accomplished and know what the next day entails. Yes, Karen. There's something to be said for planning for the next day too. Absolutely. Okay. This is a huge one. What is getting in the way of my time management? What is distracting me? What is our brain, our mindset? Yes, Karen. Kids. Let me count the ways, Kelly.
Hey,
uh,
It's Deborah. I can't find my chat box on this phone, but myself,
just tell us.
myself gets in the way.
Yes. Yes. I know Jody and I were talking, and it's like sometimes a task for me is so overwhelming because I don't know where to start sometimes. And the other thing is not thinking that I know how to do it right or perfect. And so that's paralyzing. And so I move it to the side and I don't do it. And I don't know if you guys experience that, but I know Jody does. Changed schedules. Yes, Stacy. Social media posting. Oh, Karen, yes. Oh yeah, and change schedules, Stacy. I just wanted to say yes, because in your mind you have a plan, and one thing can squirrel it away for sure. Let's see. I think those are all my questions, Jody. But yeah, just think about when we say time management, like what does that really mean? And do we let our time manage us, or are we managing that time?
Yes, I do love that point. Like something's going to get managed. Is it going to be our schedule, or is it going to be me? Like, am I going to let it manage me? Not in a good way. I think too, a couple others that I had written down on there was like Netflix. If I feel tired or I want to check out, or I'm like, when the like the day is just hard, I'm like, oh man, I'm done. I'm just gonna watch a few shows. So that can come up. There's so many things that get in the way, you guys. But we are going to do, and so Terry and I had done this with another business coach. So that's where a lot of this comes from. And I thought it was helpful. And even just giving us like a new framework to think about things, and even just revisit, okay, what is one thing? If you guys walk away with one thing tonight to like re-implement or to try, then that is a win. Like we don't want you to leave thinking, oh my gosh, I have to do 10 new things or I have to revamp it all. So if you just walk away with one new thought, I think will be really great. So she had the ABCs for time management. So here are some strategies, and the A is awareness. And I think this is really, it was such a good thing for me to think about because she wants us to track like how long does it actually take me to do something. So how long does it take you to write a post? And when we first start out, it takes a really long time. Sometimes it takes me a long time, but if I were just to sit down, if I'm disciplined and I have it like in my schedule, then I can whip that out, right? Like a lot of times I'll think about how long it will take me to do something. Like I'll think about it longer than it actually takes me to do it. That's how my son is with his chores too. Like he will argue for much longer than it actually takes to unload the dishwasher. So same thing. If I'm aware of what I'm doing, how I'm thinking about it, am I procrastinating? Where's my mind at with it? First thing. So just being aware and getting ahead of the things that can trip us up is so helpful. But then time yourself. So for the next week, just set a timer and time yourself for the things that you know that you need to do in your business, just so you know the next time that you schedule your week, you're like, oh, I know this takes 15 minutes. I can do this many follow-ups in 10 minutes. And so then you just have this knowing around it, what it's going to take to get it done. And then the B is baby tasks, or I like to call it like get out the kids' plate. Like instead of thinking that I have to have the platter of all the things that have to get done, maybe break it down into the baby tasks. Put it into little doable steps, because again, I think we can overthink things. We can be a perfectionist, or we think, oh, well, I need an hour to do this, so I'm just not going to start it, when we could do part of it and just get 15 minutes of it done now instead of thinking about it all day long. And it also helps us when we're unmotivated, just do one thing, like just do the next right thing. And oftentimes when I sit down, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to bust out these 2 things that I know I need to get done. Then I'm like, oh, I can do this. I have another 20 minutes. And then I just work on through. So definitely breaking it down into smaller tasks. And again, if you know how long something takes you, then this will be easier to do as well. And then celebrate when you do the small tasks, you guys. Like, celebrate when you do get things done, because I think we under celebrate things, right? Like at the end of the day, I think, oh, I didn't do those 2 things, but I forget the 10 that I did get done. And that is really important to do. And it actually motivates me to want to show up the next day so I can get the other 10 things done, instead of, berating myself because I missed the one item. So this to me, the C is the big part. And it's the containers section. And she referred a blog that she goes to, and it's called A Slob Comes Clean. That's the name of the blog. It's like an organizing blog, which is really hilarious that that's the name of it. But today I put that picture of the 2 Tupperware pictures, because who wants at the end of the day to feel like the Tupperware drawer where it's all just like thrown in? That's what it looks like after my kids unload the dishwasher, if we're honest. And I'm not like, I don't want to feel that way at the end of the day. Like, there's nothing worse to me than feeling that way. And some days that happens, right? But overall, I want some sort of a system so that I know where it goes and kind of how my day is going to shape up, right? But she talked about how containers are boundaries. And so even in organizing your house, they're not just pretty ways to hide your stuff. There's supposed to be boundaries for your things. And I loved that. So she was like, don't just go out and buy like 20 more containers. Like, what we don't need is more containers. We don't need more things to put our crap in. Like, we need to have boundaries around what we already have and what we're already doing. And sometimes eliminate things before we add another container. And so I totally appreciated that thought. And there's always going to be more to do, you guys. Like, there's always going to be more things that we want to add into our containers, right? Until they're just overflowing. So you really have to have your priorities straight and know, like, what do I value? What are my values, and what am I going to put my time into? So what are those categories for you? What are those big things? So some of you work a full-time job. So clearly that is one of those containers for you, right? Like, you have that job, and then you have Plexus, and then you have, your spouse or your family or your friends bucket. You have, for me, I put the family one and a big one, but then of course there's like these smaller ones. That's why I loved that picture today that I had, because it had like the big containers and then it got smaller as you went up. And so again, thinking, okay, breaking it up into smaller chunks, which makes me feel like, okay, I can do this. It's much more doable. And so thinking through those things, like, what is it? And having a day of rest, that is absolutely a container for me. And I don't always do great with that container, but I really value that. Church, is another thing. Like, what do I give to? What do I give the rest of my time to? So for you, you have to think through, like, what are my big containers? When we worked with college students, all the time we talked about having a jar and you have all these pebbles. If you were to put the pebbles in first and then your big rocks in later, you're not going to have room for the big rocks. But the big rocks are always going to fit if you put them in first, and then the pebbles fit all around it. That's how it works. And so we have to do the big things first, our big containers first. And so even thinking through, like, my husband always does, what are his top 3 priorities during the day? And then of course you have like your task list that's kind of ongoing. But what are the big rocks? What are the big containers? Making sure that you know what those are for you, and scheduling those things out. And then you don't have guilt when you're working in your container, right? Like when you're in your work time and you've had that conversation with your family, you don't feel guilty because they know, like, this is my work time, and at 3 o'clock, that's going to be family time. From 3 to 6, like, that's family time. And so then once you're in family time, you don't feel guilty that you're not working, because that's where it's at. Like, you have your boundaries and you have your containers, and not that you can't be flexible some days, because life happens, right? But the more we kind of have a system, the more flexible we can be. I think we can kind of shift things around. And it also, like, it helps us to be living in integrity and in our values, when we're like, this belongs here, this belongs here. And so it's almost like, when you set an appointment with somebody, you're not just going to constantly cancel it, right? Like, you wouldn't be living in integrity if you were doing that. And so don't do that for yourself too. Like, if you have a set time to work out, keep that. Like, honor your workout goals, honor your personal time, honor your rest time. And you're going to get to the end of the day and you're going to feel like, I lived in integrity today. I loved the example when we were going through this. She said, we don't put socks in the silverware drawer because we have space there. Like, we don't just go moving things, putting our socks there because, hey, there's an extra slot today. Like, no, it doesn't belong in the sock drawer. And I was like, oh my gosh, ding, ding, ding. That was worth the price of admission right there for me. And so that really helped me think, oh my gosh, where am I stuffing socks throughout the day in places they don't belong? So that can be something for you to think about tomorrow. Like, where am I putting socks that they just don't belong? Okay, also, when we're putting things in the containers where they belong, and we know that they're there, it's kind of like what Dr. Henry Cloud was saying, those are like no choice choices. Like, whenever we give ourselves an out, like, oh, maybe I won't work out tomorrow, like, we're not going to do it. But if we know, like, workout time for Kelly is 5:30 a.m. For me, it's like 8 a.m. Okay. So I just know that's my time. And so it's a no choice choice. So I get it done. It means I cheat on myself less, if that makes any sense. So that's kind of how I like to think about that. And then, you guys, I really think you need a container that you call margins, or your junk drawer, or like, it's your buffer space, like in your planner, there's like white space around the edges. Make sure there's some white space. So at the end of the day, you're like, I've got 2 pairs of socks. Now, where am I going to put these? You kind of have a margins section. And so, well, it got kind of out of hand in this area today, but I know I can get it done here. And so when we fill our schedules too full, we're not going to have those margins. And so just scheduling in like margin space. Matt and I got used to doing that in ministry, because in ministry, there's always someone else that you can serve. There's always something else you can do. And it's very similar in our business as well. And when you work with people, like anything, we can obviously fill it with something. And so thinking, like, where am I going to create some of that margin space throughout my week so that I have a little wiggle room? Okay, I think those are the big tips, the ABCs: awareness, baby tasks, and containers. So I don't think we'll ever feel like we're 100% in control of our time, because life happens. Clearly, COVID has shown us that. Like, things get thrown around that we just can't control, and that's not realistic, but we can have systems that help us to succeed. And so if we can take just 5 minutes, and Terry is going to finish us off with one question for us, which will really give you guys some time to think through how to apply it.
I too loved the analogy of the sock in the silverware drawer, because I am constantly doing all the things all the time. And so it was really huge for me to sit down and think about, what are my big containers? So one for sure is my work. One is my Plexus business. My husband needs a little time in there. And I haven't been back to the gym, but the gym is going to be back on my list once I'm not sick anymore. And so those like 4 or 5 things that are big containers, and you guys that have kids, you know, family kids, that's going to be a big one. But think about, what are your big containers? And then what are those things that you can fill your little containers with? And, you know, it's like Jody said, there, I mean, it's your choice. And there are choices that are no choices. And those of you with kids have no choices. So that's your choice. But even, you know, when you think about, when you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So make sure, you know, the container you're saying yes to is a big important one. And so those were my 4. My 5th one was rest, because I'm not very good at that either. And when I schedule it in, a massage or some self-care, I get it done when it's scheduled. It's kind of like Jody said, you don't cheat on yourself. So don't cheat on yourself. So think about, what are your big containers? And maybe, I don't know, can we do I mean, if you know them now, you can tell us, but if you want to think about it, it took me a couple days to figure out really what were my big containers and what were really smaller containers, to make that distinction. I guess we could put a post up and people could share, maybe. I don't know. It's up to you. A lot of people aren't here, so they won't know what we're talking about. They'll be missing out.
I'll repost this call. So if you guys want to put them in the
Okay.
chat, once I do that, you can do that there too. But if you guys have any questions or any thoughts too, the things that help you in your time management, or a tip that you're like, oh, I got to share this. I'd love to hear it.
I've just been to try to just stay focused when I sit down to do Plexus work, because that was something that I was just like really struggling with. So I just, in my planner, I just made a list of and put them in like priority order. And then I look at that every day of the week. I just keep the same list, but I'll like Monday, and I did that, I just put like an M next to it or a check mark. But like I just listed down like content creation first, and like not getting on like social media, but just like sit and like post or think about, you know, write my post, and then like checking on newbies, then existing customers, ambassadors, then my like engagements, then perks, then training. Or so I have that list in front of me, and so that I sit down to work, I just try to go through the list top to bottom. I need to be better about like setting a timer, because I think I definitely spend more time on some things than I should, or like I'm not aware of how much time goes by, and then I'm like, oh, I didn't get to everything. So, but anyway, that, as I'm starting to get a little bit better, that has helped somewhat.
I love that. Even after 5 years, I'll sit down and I'm like, what am I doing? So like I don't know what I'm doing, but it helps so much. I'm like, oh yeah, just like what you said, that's pretty much my list as well. And checking in with leaders, it's like, those are the things, like those are the big rocks in that work container for sure.
I do too. I have a rule that if I'm on social media, I set a timer. It's 10 minutes. And when it goes off, I'm done. Because I will get caught in that snowball. And then I've realized I've spent 2 hours scrolling. I'm not sure what I really do. So I set timers all the time.
So one thing that's helped me, and now it's called doom scrolling, apparently, everyone, just so you know what it's called. is that like at 3 o'clock when I've finished with the majority of my Plexus stuff, like I give myself 15 minutes just to scroll that I don't feel guilty for. I'm like, this is my doom scrolling minutes. And then I do it again after the kids go to bed. So I've given it its own container so I feel less guilty about it. So if that helps anyone, there you go. Kelly, did you have anything at one point? You looked like you were going to say something, but Kelly Higg.
No, I'm just enjoying listening to everyone's tips. I feel like this has probably been, well, the managing my mind and the balancing my business have probably been my two greatest growth areas that I've never been able to put my finger on. I mean, I knew that I could, grow in time management or whatever, but I didn't really fully understand what it was costing me or what I really was doing. And so I loved the container analogy. The socks in the silverware drawer was such a fun picture. That was a really good one. I was like, always doing that. Freaking socks don't go there, and I'm always trying to do it. So I'm just so guilty and all that. And I feel like this might be the season for the first time ever that I'm recognizing the value of mastering where my socks go. Okay. Like really being diligent about keeping things where they belong. And honestly, that's really where the peace is going to come from, right? Like where the mental energy of trying to multitask that you were just talking about, when that's not, I guess when it's more focused, there's more calm there and more peace, really. And that's where the real rest in our work, I feel like, can be. It's not just checking out from work, but it's more like the focused energy, and then the focused energy, and then the focused energy, instead of like scattered energy all the time, everywhere. And we're going to just see what we can get done. Throw it all on the wall and see what sticks. So this is all, I took a bunch of notes in my little Google Doc while you were sharing. I was like, oh, that's good. Typed it up. So yeah, thank you. This is great.
It's funny too, because more and more studies are coming out that especially women have been told, like, you're great multitaskers. Well, I think that we adapt because we have to do a million things all the time, but no one is really good at it, in fact. And so they're saying more and more, like, do one thing at a time and do it well, and then move to the next thing. And it is so true. It's like when I watch the squirrels out my window and they try to stuff like as many, like burying things out there, and then they try to stuff as many as they can in their mouth and run off. I'm like, that's how I feel when I try to multitask. It looks ridiculous. It doesn't work very well. So like just focus on one thing. And I think too, social media has wrecked our attention spans. And so on one hand, I've just become more okay with that. And so I think, okay, if I could just sit down and do 15 minutes of focused work, and then I get up and walk around for 5 minutes and then come back in, then I'm more productive, or if I focus really hard for 2 hours, I get way more done than if I sit here aimlessly for 4, So not buying into the lie that we're meant to multitask or that we're all really good at it, because that's not even helpful. So okay, I will post this call in the team page, but I would love to hear if you want to share in the chat, like under that, once I post it, if there was a big takeaway. That way, if anyone else on the team looks at it and it's helpful for them, like what your favorite tip was, you can put that there, or what your containers are. If you want to share those too, then you can do that after I post it. But thank you guys for joining in tonight. And thanks again, Taylor, for sharing and for being here. I loved having you on here. And Morgan too, even though I didn't get to see you. I'm glad that you were here. So thanks for being here. And next month we will do another call and we'll have another topic for us. I'm already working on that. So I will be excited for our March call. But enjoy the rest of this week, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.